How much money do you save installing vinyl siding by yourself? Well, that's what we're going to be going over in today's video. And if you're new to this channel, my name's Josh. This channel is all about building your own house and saving a ton of money. So be sure to subscribe, smash that like button if you find value in this video, and ring the bell so you get a notification every time I release a new video. So I just finished up this gable end of the house, and I am doing a time lapse of me taking the scaffolding down just to give you an example of some of the things you might have to face if you decide to do the vinyl siding project yourself. So that leads me into the first section of this video, why you may not want to install vinyl siding yourself. The biggest obstacle for most people is kind of obvious, but the know-how. Do you know how to install vinyl siding yourself? Ask yourself that. And if you don't, then you're going to have to research on how to do it, which that's going to cut into the cost per hour you're going to save when you go to do your own siding. So that's something you need to think about. And the next thing you need to think about is, do you have the extra time to actually tackle this project? The vinyl siding takes a decent amount of time to do if you do a whole house by yourself, so you need to allow for that if you're planning on doing the vinyl siding. So that's another drawback, is do you have the time and can you make it fit into your schedule? So a lot of people that do projects like this have a full-time job. That's what I do. I have a full-time job. I just do all this stuff on my days off from my regular job. So that's something I already factored into my life. And then the next thing you need to ask yourself is, do you have the tools to do the project? If you're going to be installing vinyl siding yourself, you definitely need to make sure you have the right tools. And as you can see here in this time lapse, I have a whole scaffolding system. So, if you're going to do the siding, you need to either rent a scaffolding if you got to get up in the air, or ladders or whatnot if you don't own them, or if you have somebody you can borrow them from, that's even better. So that's the next barrier. And then the final barrier is something else that you see in this time lapse. You're up in the air working alone, which is dangerous. So that's something you need to think about. Do you really want to risk getting injured to save a couple dollars? So we're going to be going over next why you would want to install the vinyl siding yourself. So now that we got the doom and gloom out of the way, let's talk about the reason why you might want to consider it, which obviously I'm an advocate for it because you know that my channel is all about this, building your own house. So I am a big advocate for DIYing. So why you may want to do it is you have the time to do it, so why not take advantage of it? So if you have ample time to put towards sweat equity, then do it. I am all for that, like I said. And another thing you got to think about, if you may or may not want to, is can you even find a contractor in your area to do it? I know right now the housing market is very, very busy. So find a contractor to do it, you might be waiting months for. So that's something else to consider. And you can also think about, when you do the vinyl siding yourself, you can take your time and make it look really good. I know, contractors that are of different quality. So if you hire the wrong contractor, your siding job might not turn out the way you want it to look. So if you're doing it yourself, you can definitely take your time and make it look good. So that's a huge pro to doing it yourself. Another reason why you might want to do this project yourself is because you like to work with your hands. That's the biggest reason why I like to build, is because I can work with my hands and sweat, and you get your body in rhythm with the project you're doing, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And you get to look back at the end of the day and say, I did that. And it's very rewarding, and your project's going to be there to look at for the rest of your life, hopefully, and it's just a great thing. Now let's go over the biggest pro to doing the vinyl siding yourself. That is the money you can save by doing your own siding. The sweat equity is amazing of what you can save by doing your own work in general, but when it comes to vinyl siding, it's a pretty hefty savings. I'm going to go over some numbers here. Before I go over the actual cost of how much it is for labor, I'm just going to tell you how much it costs when you go to purchase your siding. Vinyl siding is about $2 per square foot after you figure in the corners and all the trims and everything. So that's an average. Now you can get it a little cheaper than that in some places for contractors grade, and you can get a more premium siding for more than that. So it varies, but on average it's about $2 a square foot. And when you go to buy your vinyl siding, it comes in boxes, and each box contains 2 squares. And to explain what a square is simply 100 square feet, and it's a 10 by 10 section. So it comes with a total of 200 square feet per box. So now that we know how much a rough estimate of material is, let's go to average cost of labor. The average cost for labor is about $2 a square foot, give and take, depending on location and depending on the supply and demand of contractors and how hot the housing market is. It's clearly going to cost more to get something done than when the market's slow. So on average, just figure about $2 a square foot to get installed. So if that costs $2 a square foot to install, and this wall that you see here is 800 square foot after you subtract the windows out of it, and that's a 50-foot wide wall right there. It's hard to tell in the video, but it is. So that would have cost $1,600 to have that hired out. And it took me about 4 days. So if you do the math, it was about $400 a day I made, or quote unquote saved, by doing it myself. And if you're curious how much that breaks down to by the hour, if you didn't want to do the math, I'll do it for you. It's about $50 an hour. And to some people, that might be a lot of money. To other people, it probably is something they're like, you know what, it's only $50 an hour. It's going to save me. I'm definitely going to hire it out. So it all depends on how much you make an hour on your regular job. If you're doing this as a side hustle, if it'd be worth hiring out or not. And if you're doing a big bunch of projects over and over again and you get some contractors that work for you, you can definitely get them talked down because of the volume of work you're giving them. So that all is if you're into it big time. But I'm just a small time guy. I just like doing this stuff on my days off from my regular job. And it's going to cost different depending on the complexity of the project too. Clearly, someone's going to charge more to do, let's say, a gable end versus a regular straight flat wall, because there's way more cuts and there's way more problems with gables than there is a straight flat wall. Comment below if you think it is worth doing vinyl siding yourself if it saves you $50 an hour. Just let me know. I'm really curious to see if people think that's worth it. And that number that I gave you, the $400 a day, doesn't include me having to buy the tools or equipment that you see here in this video, the scaffolding for instance. That costs money. That's going to take away from the bottom line if you have to rent those, or if you have to hire somebody to help you just one day to do something you feel like you couldn't do by yourself. But with that being said, you can look at it the other way too. If you're having to borrow money to do this project and you gotta borrow money to hire out labor, then that $50 an hour is actually more than that if you consider the interest on the loan you're paying for the extra labor costs. So you got to look at it both ways. For me, I just feel like no more than I do it, it's definitely worth me doing it myself. Thanks a lot for sticking around to the end of this video. And again, my name's Josh, and this channel is all about building your own house, saving a ton of money. So be sure to subscribe, smash that like button, and ring the bell so you get a notification every time I release a new video. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.